Hi, we're in the next part. Please go and check out the previous parts to gauge your bearings. I was talking previous to this about how it is that men saw it fit squinchi on me as a punishment of women that think they don't need men, and how it is that they targeted literally the wrong woman. They dragged me through the mud, they watched me suffer, and they participated in the mutiny against my life. I once, upon trying to ask for help from this one security guard at my dad's retirement village, got literally grabbed, gadi washing, and thrown out of an environment. Got force. This guy, wait till working. My life is just so freaking hard. I said to him, I'm the one that's paying, or that gave this man, that bought this man rental to this particular property that you are trying to kick me out of. I was already suffering, I was struggling. Prior to my fall, I had set my dad up in a place, and my mom kicked me out, and so I went to stay with him briefly. My dad turned his back on me, and he was trying to kick me out of that environment. And I told the security guard that he had called on me, that you want to kick me out of Grandshab, I'm the one that set it up for him. And just because I highlighted that he's trying to kick me out of a house that is whose rental, like the landlord is me, the lease is in my name, I was just letting him know, you are kicking out the person in whose name the lease is out of this house. Just because I made mention of that, this thing, which I at that stage did not have. My sister had taken over the payments because I was unemployed now. The rightful tenant according to papers of this property. Just clarifying that caused this big chunky man to grab me like a rag doll, gadi washing, and throw me, landing with force against Lebota outside of my dad's house, a unit in that retirement village. Basically, because my dad was the retiree living there, and all I could do was just be somebody that's paying his rent. He, within the regulation of that complex, could indeed extract me, but with no compassion for the situation. I nearly died that night, and it was the exact same night, by the way, that my brother passed away in exchange of me, rather than me. My brother, of which is my dad's son and not my mom's. If my brother had not passed away, I would have died. God chose to save me and took my dad's son out of my brother, because I was going to be thrown out on the street with nowhere to go that night, and I would have died. But God caused something to happen in another part of the world that would cause my dad to get over himself, humble himself, and let me stay. Because he needed a comfort after my brother died, he let me stay. That same morning at around 2-something a.m., when I was busy being thrown out and bashed against Lebota, my brother got shot. He got shot, and a phone call came through an hour later telling my dad that his son had passed away. And if it was not for that message, that knowledge, I would have been out on the street with nowhere to go and inevitably die. So God made a decision that night, and that's how my brother died. I didn't grow up with my brother. You know when a deadbeat dad has many kids. So my brother's death, it hurt because he was my brother. However, he was as distant as some cousin that I knew when I was only 2 years old. So his death didn't sting me that badly. It only hurt because he was my brother. However, my dad was devastated by it. Essentially, God told him, if you had not hurt my kid unnecessarily, you would have gotten to keep the kid that you decided to be in the life of, since the other 2 kids you ignored. That was what rescued me, God. But 2 men grabbed me at the complaint of one man. Another very strong, thick butch. He was a security guard. He had a piece. Unkile mosadi, or fluffy, or light. I'm against the wall, and my screams caused some people to wake up and open their doors to see what's going on. I've never been beaten by a man that was my relative or a boyfriend, but I have been handled twice by complete stranger men because they were irritated with the way I spoke out for myself. One time it was a taxi driver that I refused to get in the taxi of. And then it was the security guard that threw me against the wall. That is the level of anger that men have in their hearts at women, even when they don't have context or understanding about who they are. The only men that have ever held me gamatsoho were both strangers. And so it says a lot about the character of amadoda. So in this persecution of mine, I have been attempted raped. I have been handled. There was a dude that if I hadn't locked the door, he would have beaten me up. I have been I've been groped, right? But men do that. Havana self-control, some of them. But upon then them encountering my intelligence, that's when they got especially violent and laughed at my demise. See it fit to highlight that futangna mali kodwa nyadelela I will ever be broke and poor. And these are men that I initially started out asking for help because I imagined that they were man enough. One of these men was a friend of my dad's that knew us when we were still kids. Nerimubi's uncle. He got all sour and embittered by the fact that I would not capitulate to romantic advances from basically an uncle. So to him it was like, anything for mahala. You know when men get turned monstrous and menacing because they realize that a woman is in a position of want, and the woman that is in a position of want is the kind that historically was powerful, too strong to have any man just walk on her like a doormat. And now that she's weak, they are like, Garabo, finally you're gonna do what you in your snobbishness claimed you'd never do. You're gonna prostitute yourself. Nothing is for mahala. I have gotten men treat me with nothing is for mahala because they imagined I'm the kind of woman that needed to be handled. I was always very financially strong, and so therefore when I was financially weak, they were like, now there is a crack open. It's almost as if though by mere virtue of being made poor, I got made into a red light district prostitute. Go Amsterdam. It's like I was on a window dancing my body around in nothing but lingerie, waiting for some dude to rock up and put some money in my panties, and then he'll go into a room with me and we'll do our thing. Except I'm not a prostitute, I'm a daughter of God. Far be it from me. I am so godly that no man should be gazing upon me like that because I am not worldly. And yet I have been reduced to a prostitute that is stubborn to have sex. Like literally being in a brothel and having been trafficked by a whole bunch of pimps, and you are still a virgin. You are only 14 years old, and they imagine you arrogant to refuse to sleep with a man because you're in a brothel. You're like all of us. And not only do men feel entitled to your body because you are in a brothel, so too do women feel you arrogant and literally too full of yourself to think you can be the only person sitting in a brothel as a virgin. Or you will find yourself out on the street homeless. You don't get to be in a position to be a prostitute and refuse to spread your legs. So I've been abandoned, left for dead by women and men because my poverty to them has been converted into some kind of a proverbial brothel that I'm sitting in as a virgin thinking that I'm going to get far. You don't get to live in a brothel, sit in a brothel among prostitutes, Garabo. Anybody, people who are doing anything just to get by and be the only one that doesn't have sex. Also pumala until you've given your body over. Men are like pimps and women are like the whores in these brothels that hate you for refusing to lose your chastity. Next part.